This new trend that keeps popping up in my newsfeed is you got to build an online community for your audience, right? Somewhere where people who like your content can go, they can interact with you and interact with other members of the community.
My biggest issue with YouTube right now is that audience retention is king. I think that has led to very specific editing styles and very specific topics and kinds of videos doing well, whereas kind of the weirder and more niche you are, the harder it is to find your audience.
What's the bare minimum, though, to make a good video on YouTube? Like, let's talk about kind of like just the fundamental basics, like video, audio, I don't know, scripting. If you've been on YouTube long enough, you know that YouTube is a game of trends. Whether you're trying to come up with new video topics or new editing styles or whatever, there's all kinds of trends that come and go on YouTube. And if you didn't know, the latest trend on YouTube is communities. Yes, online communities have been around for a long time, but lately I'm starting to see a lot more video creators kind of lean more towards building a community and charging money for it over creating an online course. And they kind of intertwine in a way, but this whole community thing is something that we really want to dive deep into in this episode today. And so go ahead and stick around, get a ton of value from this because there's also other things we're going to be talking about. So stick around and I'm sure you're going to love today's episode. All right, welcome back to the Video Creator Podcast. My name is Augie Johnston. I'm here with my co-host, Grant Ball, longtime YouTubers here. I don't know, over 10 years of experience between the both of us for sure. And like I said, this new trend that keeps popping up in my newsfeed is you got to build an online community for your audience, right? Somewhere where people who like your content can go, they can interact with you and interact with other members of the community that are also kind of maybe subscribers of your YouTube channel or whatever. This is, like I said, been around for a while. And the reason I wanted to bring it up today is because there's been a new software that came out maybe in the past year or two, and it's called School. Grant, have you ever heard of School?
I have not, actually. I'm feeling a little bit behind now.
Well, you're in for a treat. School, I love the software personally. I mean, some people might have different opinions about it, but basically the best way I can describe it is it's like a Facebook group. Okay. It's like a Facebook group. So you can go in there and there's a news feed there. You can ask questions, you can make posts, you can share videos, you can do all that, but it's not on Facebook. It's on this platform called School. It's SKOOL.com. And there's other features too. So it's really clean look. It's really basic. There's not like 1,000 features. It's really easy to use, but there's other features such as Classroom. Okay. So you can click on Classroom and that's where all of your online courses would be hosted. There's also another tab where you can click on Community. That's the news feed. The next tab, I'm doing this kind of off memory right now, is Calendar. There it is. So you click it, it opens up a calendar, and there you can post like events, like not really live events, but Zoom calls and stuff like that. So there's that too. So you can, get on Zoom calls. And I think that's a little bit different feature. I don't think you have that in a Facebook group, as well as you can do direct messaging and a few other features, but not too many other features. It's kind of minimalist in the most sense. So yeah, so what you're going to start seeing is in a lot of video creators nowadays are doing is they are signing up for School. They're telling all their community to, hey, come on inside, and they're interacting through that. And you can create a paid community through School or a free community through School. And actually, recently, I've started a video creator club community on School. So if you're watching this podcast, we'll link it in the description. You can jump in there and I'll be in there interacting, answering questions, stuff like that. But okay, Grant, you haven't heard of School. Did you Google it while I was talking or anything? Or
Sure did. I've been clicking around here, checking it out. I actually recognize some of the creators on here, like Aaron Dowdy. He's the one I recognize. It's pretty interesting. Like, also a lot of traffic on here. Like, I'm seeing a group with 17,500 members, one with over 130,000 members, the Adonis Gang. And overall, whenever I hear about a new platform, my first question is always like, okay, but are people using it? And clearly they are. I see some of these communities are free, some of them are paid. It's just interesting to see this kind of new thing. It almost reminds me of Discord servers, but obviously different. And Discord, I guess, tends to be more gaming oriented, but I know it has kind of breached into the mainstream a lot now. But yeah, this does remind me of a Discord server in a way.
Yeah, and I want to dive deeper into kind of discussing like what are some other platforms, what are some other options. I mean, this is not like an ad for school or anything. It's just I want to dive deeper into understanding what you think and what I think a community needs and what the best platform is to use. But first, I'll give a little bit more background about School because it's interesting. Sam Ovens is the person who created it initially. He was kind of a consultant, online course creator who had a business called consulting.com. They were doing like $40 million a year. I think he sold it actually. And now he started School. So School, was getting some traction. It was doing well. And then big old Alex Hermosi, who, if you don't know, is like kind of like a business guru who's recently blown up, real big buff dude, right? He invested a ton of money and now he's actually like a co-owner of School. And when that happened, he started wearing a hat in all of his interviews that said School. He started promoting it on his social media. And, I wouldn't be crazy to say that I think the valuation of School has probably doubled. I mean, I'm seeing these communities just popping up everywhere. Everyone seems to have one. And it's a cool platform because you can switch between communities and stuff. It's almost, it's just an interesting platform. So besides School, you already mentioned Discord. What are some things that you like about Discord in general? Because I've never used it.
Well, I really like it because it's also a great messaging app. Like, in my opinion, it's a billion times better than Skype or even Zoom. So a lot of
Skype.
people, yeah, yeah. A lot of people use it for things that have nothing to do with community building. So a lot of people just kind of have Discord. And they're
Yeah.
on Discord to hang out with their friends, and then they can hop into your server. And so in that sense, it has a wide breadth, right? So there's a lot of people who already have Discord. They don't need to get introduced to a new platform. Just in general, I feel like Discord is really well designed. I just love Discord. In my experience with running a Discord server, so my channel Treesicle still has a Discord server. We don't cultivate it much anymore. But I learned a lot about building a community through that. So what we did to build the community was we actually originally got sponsored by Discord, and they were like, make a Discord server and advertise us. And this was like when they first got their start in like 2016, 2017. So we made a video and we're like, hey, everybody, we made a Discord server. Come on in. And we got a lot of people, like thousands of people in that server, and it was thriving. It was a great place for fans of our channel to interact with each other, to interact with us. But I learned a lot about what it takes to run a community, and in and of itself, that is a huge aspect of the job. So I think one mistake we made, and this might not apply to you if you're like a small channel and you're building a community from scratch. Like, we already had a few 100,000 subscribers, and I think the video that pitched our server has several 100,000 views, which is great. But also, we got a lot of people in there that were great, and then 1 to 3% of them that were troublemakers, and it ended up being a lot of work to mod the server and keep people from being toxic or from just being horrible and making it a bad place to hang out. Again, most people were great, but running a community and making sure that it is a good place to be, like, you can't just kind of let it flow necessarily. You do have to put like effort into it. And I learned, like, if you have a sizable audience already, I would recommend having a paywall. Even if it's like $1, that's going to actually save you a lot of work, because the people who are willing to even pay $1 to get into your community, they're not going to be troublemakers, probably. Like, you just don't want to have to deal with a lot of drama. Like, you really just don't. It is just going to make it a worse place. It's going to be a lot more work for you. And so I would recommend a paywall if you have a somewhat sizable audience already. And it kind of depends on your niche. I think our channel had a lot of like edgy humor, so we maybe attracted a few too many edgelords not having a paywall. So partially my fault, perhaps.
Yeah, I could already imagine like the kind of people that were watching your guys' videos that are, the ones that just in the chat, just hating the comments, and then just jumping in the community and kind of being disruptive. That's pretty funny. And I think there's two things that, you got to worry about, and that's the disruptiveness of people, like, just being rude and just, out of pocket, and also promotional, right? There's sometimes people jump in these groups and they just are spamming it with promotions and stuff. So those are like the two things that you do have to have mods for. And for me, my question was, how big did that group get? Do you remember how many members you guys had in there?
I think our peak was like 3,000 members or something.
Okay, nice. Yeah. And once you get into the thousands, I think as a community, then you can really start having some engagement and stuff in there. But that's another challenge with communities, is like the starting point, right? With zero. It's like, all right, you want to join my community with 0 people in it?
Come hang out by yourself.
Yeah, exactly. So that's also a challenge. But I think when you have, views coming in and people hitting subscribe and clicking on your links, like, yeah, it'll organically grow, as long as you engage a little bit too. And, I built a community like that too, as well, for Baller Bootcamp, my basketball training channel. It was a Facebook group and it grew big, man, 20,000 people in there. And man, that thing became a lot of work. Luckily for me, I had some people, other kind of like coaches, become mods and admins in there, and they could add people in there, delete them out, and just kind of monitor things. But yeah, it became a lot of work, and it got to the point where I just kind of stopped answering questions in there and stuff. And there's a little bit of, they would help each other out a little bit, but overall, I don't think it benefited me money wise or view wise or anything really. It was just kind of a cool place, I think, that got built. And the way that I did it is, in my videos, I always pitched a lead magnet, right? In all my basketball training videos, I said, hey, if you want a free workout, click the link, join the newsletter, get the free workout. And we built that email list pretty large, 50,000 people. And in the first email, I would say, hey, if you want to join our community, here's the link to the Facebook group. And that seemed to work. That's really what would push people in there. I mean, there is some virality aspect to having a Facebook group too. That's great, right? If people post content stuff, it shows up in the news feed. Sometimes people see that, their friends, they say, what's this? They click it and they join. But mostly through that newsletter, I think people were clicking that link and joining. So I also put it in the description, right? So that's another great place, right? If you're listening to this and you're creating videos, put the link to your Facebook group or your Discord in the description, and people will start clicking on that thing and jumping in there. So yeah, what are some other platforms? We named a couple. We don't got a deep dive on any of these, but School is kind of the latest and greatest. Facebook groups, Discord. Where else would you say you could build a community?
Definitely Patreon. I mean, everybody knows about Patreon, right? And I guess a lot of people don't necessarily think of it as a community building space, but it absolutely is. So
is there ways you can message, or is there a news feed? Where's the community part?
Yeah, so every creator essentially has their own newsfeed. And then if you are a Patreon subscriber, subscriber. So let's say you're subscribed to like 5 people on Patreon, you have a newsfeed that consists of everything those 5 people post. So that is the community is essentially interacting with the posts that the creator makes. You can also direct message the creator. I know I've sent some direct messages to people I subscribe to on there. And yeah, there's a whole side of Patreon that I think most people think of Patreon as just like a way to make money, and maybe you offer some extra little rewards or content, but they don't necessarily think of it as a community. But I know like Van Neistat, the brother of Casey Neistat, his Patreon is huge. I mean, I think he makes like $100,000 a year at least on his Patreon. And he has I want to call it a podcast on his Patreon. And I know he interacts directly with a lot of his patrons and gets a lot of his video ideas from his patrons. He's very connected to his community. And I know there's a lot of benefit in speaking directly with your community because, when you're a YouTuber, it is easy to feel isolated. But if you are interacting with the people who are actually watching your content, that I think breathes a lot of life into you. It gives you new ideas. It also helps you understand like who your message is reaching and what it means. And that is really valuable. Whereas if you're just kind of making videos in a room and not talking to your community, I mean, that can work for some people, but it definitely, I think it can breathe a lot of life into you by having this relationship with your audience. And Patreon is a good place to do that for sure. And obviously there's a paywall there, but even if it's like $1 a month, again, that I think filters out the people who are just kind of there for whatever reasons, and focuses on people who really want to be there and who are really excited to be there. But again, that is up to you as far as whether you want a paywall. It just like so Treesicle, the video game channel, was the channel where we had that really huge Patreon, or a really huge Discord server. And then Bonsai Pop, the anime channel we created, also has a really thriving Discord server to this day. And that one started with a paywall of like $1 a month. And that Discord server is still, I mean, huge and thriving, and there's people in there to this day. And I do think that had something to do with it. Like, obviously, there's still modding necessary, but everybody wants to be there who is there. And that just makes a huge difference. So yeah, Patreon, Discord, school, these are all really good options. Like, you can't really go wrong. It's just kind of about, I think, checking out which one appeals to you the most. And for us, the Discord made the most sense.
And there's other softwares too, like not just these kind of social media platforms like Facebook and stuff too. Like just like School is its own software, $97 a month. Circle is another software, very similar. And like most of these course hosting platforms like Kajabi and Uscreen, and there's other ones, right, that will host your course, and that's kind of what they're for. They also try to build these communities, and a lot of them have failed in the past. They never had like these community aspects to them, where it's kind of a missed opportunity, because when people buy your course, they're in, a lot of times people, got to log in to the platform to view my course. Okay, look, part of my course is a weekly group coaching call on Zoom. I gotta, whatever. There's another platform to get that link where, it's a kind of not all combined. And that's what school did a really good job of doing. It was kind of combining it all in one place. You can DM, there's the calendar right there. The courses are there in the community. So it's good stuff. So communities are the new online courses. So that's one trend that if you're not on yet and you're not kind of looking into, you want to look into, how to build a community, because it does take work and you need engagement in there. And just as a side note, because a lot of people are video creators that are watching this, right? The best one on Facebook is one, in my opinion, by Brian G. Johnson. It's called Tube Ritual on Facebook. Get in that Facebook group, because it's just a lot of value, and he like runs it a little, not as, he's not as in there as often as he used to be, but he used to be in there like all day helping people out, and just a good place. And now it's set up to where it's people helping people. That's Tube Ritual. It's about 20,000 video creators in there. It's a good place to be. Yeah. Okay. So I want to move away from the community talk a little bit, because I think we went deep there. The next thing I want to talk about is YouTube, man. I feel like every episode we're talking about this, but YouTube, 3 things wrong with YouTube. And there's a couple other topics that I just want to get your opinion on today, Grant, because it's been a few weeks since we sat down and chatted about YouTube. And throughout that time, I was on YouTube constantly. And I know you probably were too, because this is what we do. But what's one thing that's come to your mind recently that said, man, this needs to change in regards to YouTube or just video creation in general?
My biggest issue with YouTube right now is that audience retention is king. I think that has led to very specific editing styles and very specific topics and kinds of videos doing well, whereas kind of the weirder and more niche you are, the harder it is to find your audience. And I think that's always been true. Like, obviously, the more niche you are, like, it's going to be harder to find an audience, right? But I feel like nowadays it's especially true. So if like I'll notice on my personal channel, which is very weird videos. I talk about like ghosts and the merging of human and machines and Neuralink, and like it's a whole weird variety of topics, right? But I'll notice like the audience retention on my videos is it's pretty good. Like I'll have a 15-minute video and the audience retention is almost 50%, which is higher than average, but the video doesn't really get attention from the algorithm. And I think it's because of a combination of, even though my subscribers really like it, I find that I think my niche is kind of weird. And so that, in combination with my audience retention not being like 60%, the videos don't get promoted as much. And I'm not complaining necessarily, but I do feel like it's a lot harder now to get noticed unless you are doing this sort of like, we asked 100 people who their first love was, like there's those types of videos that do really well. But if you are super weird, like, I think it's harder to find your audience. Like, YouTube is a lot more cutthroat now as far as like, okay, well, the audience retention is good, but we don't really know who to promote this video to, so we're not going to try very hard. And that is my biggest problem with YouTube right now.
Yeah, I can definitely agree with that and relate to that. I think what kind of comes along with that too is that everyone used to always say niche down, you'd be more, more niche, but that's not really the truth on YouTube anymore. It's like you got to go more broad, because for a video really to take off, like it's got to kind of get promoted to the masses in a way, and that's probably what's happening with your videos is like, yeah, people are enjoying them and stuff, but they're too niche. And like at vid shops, we'll have clients. I remember I had this one guy who, man, it was AI, basically AI for stock trading, right? Like that was kind of his niche. And so he's talking a lot about it, but he was going like how to even create the AI in his videos. Like it was so complicated and just like over anybody's head that would ever watch it. And that was kind of my advice to him is like, somehow you got to make this more broad. And yeah, and that bothers me too, man, because I want to make niche. I want to, like, that's what it's about, man. Like I want to find, like when I want to learn about something, I don't want just like let's say I want to learn how to run Facebook ads. I don't want to learn, how to spend $1 a day, or I don't know where I'm going with this, but like I don't want to learn like a broad topic that's basically the beginner version that would appeal to most of the masses, but it's all fluff and it doesn't really give you anything in the end that you can do. I want the video that's screen sharing and diving into the account and going super granular and giving me some advanced tactics. But that's not a good move to grow on YouTube to make that video. You know what I mean?
Yep. Yeah, it's super true. Like, it's like you have to niche down, but in a generic way, which it almost feels like what that doesn't even make sense. But yeah, it's if it's like your niche has to be prank videos or something, or your niche has to be something popular generally. Whereas I feel like in 2014, if I was making the videos I'm making now in 2014, I don't think they would go viral or anything, but I think it would be a lot easier and a lot less work to find my audience. So, and I do believe that as long as you keep making videos, like you will find your audience, you will get that breakthrough video that will kind of feed into the rest of your channel. But it's a lot harder now. And I do think YouTube is more cutthroat. Like I think in previous years, they were less focused on like optimizing how long people stay on the platform, and they were kind of just like figuring it out and tweaking dials and just kind of like it felt a bit more random, I guess. Whereas now it's like if YouTube doesn't know for sure that you're going to watch this video, they're not going to show it to you. And they're not going to try very hard to promote it. But all this being said, I will say on my feed, I do get a lot of videos that have like 50 views, 300 views. Like, I do think YouTube is promoting smaller channels now. Just, how hard they try, I'm not sure. It still feels like it's a lot harder than it used to be, and it still feels pretty cutthroat.
But I will say, like, I do agree that I'm starting to see small channels might get, recommended on a homepage or whatever, but those are always super broad topics. Like if you are a small channel and you want to get a video to go viral, it's only going to be a broad one, and because it just has to appeal to the masses, so there is that. But yeah, it's good to see those small channels popping up. Okay, my turn. Here's one thing that bothers me about YouTube, and we've talked about before, is it seems like the most polarizing people get the most recognition. And like, it seems like you have to be polarizing these days. Like gone are the days where I can create a channel that just delivers a ton of value, entertaining value, and, info value, education value, that kind of stuff. I got to be polarizing in the way that I do it if I'm going to do that, and that's one thing that bothers me. There's this guy, his name is Andy Elliott. And he's grown. He's got about 700,000 on YouTube, and Instagram's his main platform, 2.2 million. And this guy makes me want to throw up in my mouth. He teaches sales. Okay, he teaches sales, how to get sales. He started as a used car salesman, blah blah blah. In the end, he's been in trouble. He's been sued and stuff for like fraud and all kinds of stuff in the past. And now you see him, running seminars, teaching people how to sell over the phone or whatever. But the reason I don't like him, but the reason that I see the reason he's growing is he's so polarizing and so controversial. He'll have a room full of 500 people at a conference, and he'll a bunch of different sales reps. He'll say, "You right there, come on up here. What's your name?" Give him a name. How much in sales did you do last year? 70,000. That's it. You know why you only did 70,000? Why? Take off your shirt. What? Take off your shirt. You see this? He doesn't even have a six pack. In order to make more money, you got to have a six pack. He's like kind of one of those guys. And you know me, I love that kind of stuff. I love those.
That's pretty funny. I will say I'm.
Oh, dude, go watch a video. You'll feel awkward. You'll feel cringy is what you'll feel. You'll be like, oh, he actually did that. And he does it. It wasn't just like a one-time thing. This guy does that. It's like part of what he does. And, I'm all for like the motivational guys and stuff. Like I love that stuff. But for some reason, when I watch him, obviously that's just wrong. But just basically fat shaming all these sales reps into
right.
But the whole point here is that why do you have to ever since people saw Andrew Tate do that and blow up, it's like all these people are coming out of the woodworks. Like the more controversial I am, the more I can grow. And yeah, it just rubs me the wrong way.
Do you feel like this is a new problem though? I feel like this has always kind of been true. Like even in the TV era, like I feel like controversy has always sold. Like there's something entertaining about it. Like you want to watch the disaster. You want to watch something that makes you mad or that makes you feel some intense emotions. Like the worst thing that somebody can say about a video you made is that they are indifferent to it. If they hated your video, that is so much better than them saying, I don't know, it was okay, I guess. Like, so in that sense, controversy is always going to make people feel something intense, whether it's good, whether it's bad, but it's going to make you feel something. Nobody's going to watch that video of take off your shirt. You only made 70 grand in sales. It's because you're a fat pussy. Like, I would watch that, even though I don't condone what he's doing. I don't think he's like a good person. I mean, maybe the guy was in on it. I don't know. But this isn't like a role model to me. This isn't a way that I want to be in the world, but it's entertainment. And I feel like it's always kind of been that way. But I will say, I think you're correct in that social media algorithms, the past, 5, maybe even 10 years, probably not quite 10 years, but they promote controversy. It's all about engagement. It's all about how many people are interacting with this post. If people think it's cringe and they're commenting that it's cringe, if people think it's mean and they're commenting that it's mean, well, that gets a lot of engagement. And people are probably watching the video all the way through because they want to see how this train wreck plays out. And that is good for audience retention. And I don't know, it's like an old problem that has become new again, I feel like. But I agree. I do feel like maybe the older days of YouTube, just maybe because there was less competition, you didn't have to do that as much. I think most of it is probably algorithmic, but some of it might just be when there's too many people on a platform, like you got to stand out somehow. And like, I don't know. I want to blame YouTube for this, and I think they are partially to blame. But part of me just thinks like, man, it's been like this since Rome. Like, the guy, standing on a soapbox, screaming on the street, like people will watch him.
Yeah, no, you're true. It's always been like that. I mean, you think of reality TV, what is it? It's just drama. It's like, it's what it is. But the thing about YouTube is it's not like a controlled environment, like a reality TV set is like a controlled environment where, they're pulling strings and stuff. But like if something goes down that crosses the line, like the producers will break it up or whatever. Like YouTube is like the ultimate reality TV where it's just some guy who's like, I want to grow on YouTube, just like all the people listening to this, right? And says, well, hey, if I go and, I don't know, burn this cat on video, it's
Oh
going to
my
get
God.
it's going to get a ton of views. It's going to go viral, but and anybody can do those kind of things because it's an uncontrolled environment. It's like, who's going to step in? There's no producer, so
I do
uh,
feel like YouTube would flag that video and it would get taken down, thankfully.
hey, to be honest, man, I'm worried about some of the words we've said because I see like on YouTube nowadays, people say like, instead of saying like he killed her, they'd be like he unalived her.
Right.
You've been seeing
Yes.
that? That's a
Oh yeah.
trend.
Ray William Johnson says that all the time. Yeah.
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 Oh man, I love me some Ray William Johnson. I love how he's innovated. But okay, so those are a few things that really been bothering us lately about YouTube. And for all the people eager to be the next big thing on YouTube, take away the tips too. That being controversial or polarizing, is going to help you. But I guess everyone has their own moral compass on what would cross the line. And I guess for me, not to stand on my high horse here, but I feel like my moral compass is high to where it kind of hurts me in my video creation process, to where no, I'm not willing to do what Andy Elliott did to that guy to get views.
Right.
I'm barely even willing to say a cuss word.
I think there's something about being unhinged. Like, man, when I was 22, I was super unhinged. Like, I would swear, I would I mean, I swear now, like, not that it makes you hardcore or whatever, but I mean, like, online, like, I didn't care. I just said anything if I thought it was funny. I was unhinged. And I think there is value in thinking that you're a genius and that if somebody doesn't like what you do, it's because they're stupid. And when I was in my early 20s, that was my mindset. And that absolutely served me in building a channel. Like, it made me a lot more resilient. Whereas now I have the wisdom to know that if someone doesn't like what you do, they might just not like it. It's not that they're stupid. It's not that you're a genius that is unrecognized. They might just have different taste. And that man, that's so much less unhinged. Like, I think like the final form is being free as opposed to being unhinged, right? And it's a lot harder to figure out how to be free than it is to be unhinged. So I just think there's a lot of unhinged people on the platform because it works. It works. It worked for me. Why wouldn't it work for somebody else? you know?
But there's also, Grant, a difference between like satire and a written script and something that's actually happening in real life.
Sure.
Like you watch a movie, there might be a serial killer in the movie, but if you watch a YouTuber that's a serial killer, then that's a little bit different, and like for you, I think you get a pass for all that kind of stuff because it was like a joke, it was made in that way. But Andy Elliott's not joking. Like he's up there doing that for real and doing it for the views. But yeah, it just comes with the entertainment industry, right? Where that stuff's going to be there. Okay. 3 things wrong with YouTube or 2 things, I guess. That was always 2 things that's been bothering us. I feel good. I got that off my chest.
Yeah.
That was a nice little therapy session. Yeah. We should do that more often.
I feel lighter.
Yeah, me too. Okay. Here's the last thing I want to talk about because a lot of people are creators listening to this. They're making videos. Maybe they're not getting views. Maybe their videos suck. What's the bare minimum though to make a good video on YouTube? Like, let's talk about kind of like just the fundamental basics, like video, audio, I don't know, scripting.
Basics, I would say, should be like a relatively recent smartphone. Like even a smartphone from like 2018 is probably good enough if you are recording in a room with decent lighting and decent like audio. So if your room is carpeted and has some things on the wall to kind of block sound, like even if you just set up your phone and you talk to the phone, if you have something interesting to say and you have a good presence to you, that is the bare minimum to make a video. Like I see some people, they're trying to record a yoga video or something and they just set up their iPhone and they know what they're doing as far as like yoga or fitness or something, but the sound quality is not good. Like you can understand everything they're saying, but there's something kind of unpleasant about like, there's background noise. There's just too much my brain has to do to like hone in on what you're saying that it's not going to do well. Like you need, even if you are recording on a phone, you still need like a decent environment to record in. You need to be close enough to the phone that your voice is clear. Again, even if you're not using a fancy mic like this, it just like there needs to be an effortlessness, I think, in hearing what you are saying. And that is something I noticed that some people get wrong. So I think as far as equipment, that's the bare minimum, is like a relatively recent phone within the last like 6 years. And then just decent audio quality,
Yeah.
decent
And
video
lighting.
quality.
Yeah.
And lighting, yeah.
Yeah. So, okay. So lighting can be from a window. Lighting can be from some soft boxes, a ring light. It doesn't really matter. But yeah, you got to have good lighting. You don't want like crazy dark shadows and stuff. And then, of course, you said the audio part. So, you want to be in a room that's not going to be super echoey. But your microphone options for audio are, if it is with a phone, like you said, be close to it. If not, then use a lav mic, use, Yeti mics. These are all options, shotgun mics, but just basically paying attention to audio and video. It's funny that you say bad audio like makes it kind of hard you got to focus to listen to it and stuff. Because I don't know if you've ever watched a video with somebody with like a real thick accent, right? And you're like,
I can't do it.
And by the end of it's like 10 minutes and it ends, you're like, I need to take a nap. I'm exhausted. Like it takes energy from you. It's crazy.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, so that's a big one, and that would be the bare minimum. Now, I don't think at all you can disagree with me here, but I think the best practice for sure though is having a DSLR or mirrorless camera. That's my first tip for people is like get a mirrorless or DSLR camera. There's a learning curve. It isn't easy to use. It's hard. It's going to make it more challenging for you. There's more setup. There's more everything. But the way YouTube is nowadays, it helps a lot to have that. And just please don't use a webcam. That's one thing that I do not like. I do not like webcams. Even with good lighting, even with good everything, it just, to me, it never looks right. And yeah, you can totally tell the difference between a webcam and a DSLR. So, okay, those are bare minimums. Okay, let's talk a little bit about scripting. What's like a bare minimum script you would do?
I would say an outline. So instead of writing all the words, I'm going to say like there's an outline of first I'm going to do this, then I'm going to do this. And maybe like, so let's say you're doing a vlog or something. You kind of have a general idea of your day. Like the script can live in your head. It could be an outline that you write down. But I think you want like a story arc, a sort of 3-part story arc, beginning, middle, end. You have problem, the journey to solve the problem, and then the resolution. And that's like the most basic script that you can do. Like you don't have to follow that.
That's pretty advanced for some people, I feel like, Grant.
Yeah, and even like I feel like the couple of videos I've made recently on my channel have not followed that story arc at all. Maybe if I did, it would increase my audience retention. But I'm also just kind of throwing paint at the wall. Like I'm not really trying to go viral necessarily. But that 3-part story arc, beginning, middle, end, problem, journey to solve the problem, resolution. Anytime you do that, the story is going to be at least pretty good. It's going to be at least pretty good.
Yeah, that's good advice. And stories definitely are good for retention. People want to, hear the ending to them. And the only thing I would add to that would be, and maybe this isn't part of a bare minimum, but yeah, maybe, is like a written out word for word hook. I think that's can make a video better and do better is not just winging the hook like we do sometimes, but we try to write them out. We try to come with a little spaz or spazazz at the at the beginning of these podcasts. So okay, yeah, bare minimums. Like, look, if you're just getting started, go with the bare minimum, really, because you don't want to start putting all these challenges in front of you to get started, like learning how to use the DSLR, learning how to set up audio. So just get those bare minimums and get the part of you being able to speak to camera and all that kind of stuff out of the way. But eventually, go get yourself a DSLR mirrorless. It's going to cost you more than you think, because all of a sudden you're going to need to buy a new lens, and then all of a sudden you're going to need to buy this and that. But to me, it makes a world of difference. And like for our clients at vid shops, like that's one thing I would always recommend to them is upgrade that camera, get that. You'll like how it looks, and get off that webcam, because that's not going to work. All right. Any final thoughts on any of that stuff, Grant?
Just work with what you got. And even if you have kind of an old phone or something, like the environment that you film in is really important. And even like filming in the park is fine. But like be close enough to your phone. And I think you can work with what you've got, just generally with what people usually have access to. I think whoever you are listening to this, you have enough to start a YouTube channel as long as you are, careful with how you go about it.
Cool. Well, if you are just getting started, welcome to the biggest learning curve of your life. It's a good journey. You'll enjoy it, but keep learning because there's always something new to learn. That's for sure. And that's why you're here. So, hey, thank you guys so much for listening. If you guys are on YouTube, please subscribe on YouTube. If you're listening on any other platform, go ahead and give us a follow there as well. And with that said, we'll see you guys in the next video.
See you later.